Come in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Film Nerd Podcast. I'm Vince, and we are back. I just recorded an episode, so you can notice I'm probably in the same shirt here. I am in the same shirt if you're watching on YouTube. Just did my first episode back in months, episode 30, just talking about everything I watched in the previous months, August until January. Just been very busy, as I mentioned in the episode, in the fall months with football, and then starting up another podcast, an American football podcast with some friends, as well as just crazy with family, friends, life, and all kinds of other stuff going on. So this episode, this is going to be a separate segment I think I'm going to do going forward. Again, I'm not sure how often I'm going to be putting episodes out going forward. I just had some time here and figured I'd knock out some of these movies that I've been watching. I am trying to put together a few discussions with some people that I'm working on. I will put out my 2021 Best of the Year list pretty soon as well, hopefully in the coming months once I get caught up on some movies that I missed. And yeah, see where things go. Just as long as I have time, can always talk about movies. All right. So this segment going forward will be a separate segment for me to talk about a challenge that I'm currently working on with a book, and that is 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. I have, I believe, the 2015 edition. I've been trying to work through it. Obviously, 1001 movies, that is a lot of movies. So this segment challenge will continue on as long as it takes. I was originally, last year when I started this challenge, and some of the episodes I did talking about this, originally said I was going to go in order. I started and did the first, I think, 10 movies or so in order. And to be honest with you, watching so many films from the 1910s and 1920s is very challenging mentally and for my patience. I did enjoy some of those movies. I did. But watching that many silent films in a row is very difficult. They're not all Charlie Chaplin movies. I love Charlie Chaplin. His movies are great. I can rewatch those endlessly. Those are short and entertaining. I mean, I watched a 7-hour French serialized film, silent film. I mean, good Lord, that it was good. It was good. It really was for the time. And I talked about that in a previous episode, but good Lord, it's hard to watch. So going forward, my new plan is to kind of jump around. I'm just going to randomly jump through decades. I'll watch a 1920s film, then a 1980s, 50s, 2000s. So I'm just going to jump all around. It'll keep it more interesting as I work through the book. So I'm also going to periodically, when I find a chance, watch some old films as well. And I will put that in this episode. I will talk about the old films first. Maybe they weren't in the book, and then talk about my challenge here. So first, I'm going to talk about some old films here, and some of these might have been in the book. I'm going to be completely honest. Before I started recording, I forgot to check. A couple of these may be in the book, maybe not. They're just some old films that I had never seen before. These are all first-time watches that I thought were memorable. The first one is the 1996 film Trainspotting. I had never seen this film before. It is a British film, UK film, from Danny Boyle. It is a very unusual film. So it's about a guy. The main character is played by Ewan McGregor, and he's incredible in this lead performance. Who is deeply immersed in the Edinburgh, Scotland drug scene. He tries to clean up and get out, despite the allure of the drugs and influence of friends. So very, I'm trying to think how to word it. Disturbing? Maybe not disturbing. Maybe that's a strong word, but there is some sequence and I take it back. There are some disturbing scenes. I watched this movie a while ago, so I apologize if my thoughts are rambling a bit on this one because it was a while ago that I watched it. I really enjoyed this film. I guess I should put that out there. I put it a 4.5 star on Letterboxd. It's one I want to watch again. I need to watch it again. Very early film from Danny Boyle in his filmography. I believe he was a writing credit on this. if I remember correctly. He is not. Excuse me. No, not a writing credit. Just directed this film. I believe it's based on a book, though, if I remember correctly. But yeah, Trainspotting. I can't remember if it was British production or UK. I think it's a UK production because I believe it all takes place in Scotland, or a lot of it does. I think part of it's in London. Again, I watched this a while ago. I need to rewatch it. But anyway, Trainspotting. I believe I watched this one on Prime. I'm not 100% sure. Next old film, first time watch that I watched back in August. It's been a while. I believe it was on Netflix. Was The Game. I went on a little Fincher binge. I rewatched and watched some Fincher films. This was one of the few films from Fincher I'd never seen before. It happened to be on Netflix, so I checked it out. 1997 film again, with Sean Penn and Michael Douglas. I really enjoyed this film. The biggest problem I have with this film, without spoiling anything, is there's a huge reveal, a twist. I kind of saw the twist coming. I feel like a lot of people could probably guess the twist, but I feel like once you know for sure what the twist is, what the reveal is, it may take away from the film a little bit. It still has a lot to offer in terms of Fincher's directorial style, the look and the feel and the atmosphere. Performances from Sean Penn and Michael Douglas are great. It's still an entertaining film, very fast paced. If you've never heard of this film, basically, Michael Douglas plays a very wealthy banker who, on his birthday, he gets a gift, an unusual gift from his younger brother, played by Sean Penn. It's a certificate to play a game, thus the title, The Game. And the game is pretty messed up. It's a wild game, and it's definitely a very entertaining and fun movie, worth checking out. I enjoyed it. The next first time watch was Any Given Sunday. Excuse me, back in the fall, I went on kind of a binge where I was watching a bunch of football movies, and I tried to rank them on Letterboxd. And Any Given Sunday, I'd never watched the whole thing all the way through. It is a film from Oliver Stone, who is a very famous filmmaker, made a lot of great movies, a lot of famous movies. I didn't love this movie. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars in Letterboxd. I think that's pretty generous on rewatch. I don't know if it'll stay that high. I love, there's a speech from Al Pacino's character. Al Pacino plays the head coach of a NFL football team in this movie. It is an all-star cast, incredible cast. Basically kind of plays out like a football epic. I mean, this movie is over 2.5 hours long. It's almost 2 hours and 40 minutes. So that's one big criticism of the movie. It's very long. But I think it's intentional because it does encapsulate quite a bit in terms of character building and narrative. A lot of aspects of American football, NFL football behind the scenes. And it's a very entertaining movie. Not everything always works. It is a bit messy because of its length and how much she's trying to put into it. The visual editing style doesn't always work for me. It's a bit abrasive, a lot of quick cuts, which I'm not always a huge fan of. I think that frantic visual style is intentional, but I didn't always love it. But Any Given Sunday, definitely worth checking out if you're a football fan, if you've never seen it. Next first time watch I'd never seen before, He Got Game, from Spike Lee. I've been really trying to watch a lot of Spike Lee films over the last couple of years here. This is with Denzel Washington and a performance from Ray Allen, the NBA player. He was very young at the time. He actually does a pretty good job. He plays Denzel Washington's son in the movie. The quick synopsis is a basketball player's father must try to convince him to go to a college so he can get a shorter prison sentence. Very interesting premise. Very theme heavy father-son relationship here. As always, a lot of racial aspect, African-American experience in America that's always prominent in Spike Lee's films. I really loved this movie. Denzel, man, gives a powerhouse performance. It's actually one that I'll be showing in my film club at the high school pretty soon. So this is the first time I've ever seen it. So I'll be rewatching again here pretty soon. But yeah, He Got Game. I think this one was on HBO Max, and it's great. I love it. Spike Lee is a very, very good director. I think he's kind of underrated, honestly. Next film that I had been wanting to watch for a long time. I'm a sucker for science fiction horror films in space. Alien is one of my favorite movies. I think the video game Dead Space is an awesome video game. I watched the 1997 film Event Horizon, which is directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who is notoriously a horrible filmmaker. and a lot of negatively received films. This is one of his like more positively received kind of cult following films. Excuse me. One that notoriously in post-production, there was a lot of controversy in terms of the final cut, the director's cut. I enjoyed this. What's his name? Oh, I got to pull it up here. The actor Sam Neill plays one of the main characters in the film. It's not a perfect film. I think it's kind of messy. It has a lot of problems. I gave it 3.5 stars. But I don't know. I'm kind of a sucker for this angle, horror space films. And I think it's fun. I think it's entertaining. I think it has problems. I don't think it's a perfect film, but if you like horror films in space, if you've never seen Event Horizon, I think it was on Amazon Prime, I believe, or maybe HBO Max. I'm not 100%. I think maybe it was HBO Max. I don't know. I enjoyed it. Event Horizon. Another first time watch. I watched Blade, 1998, Wesley Snipes, one of the first Marvel films. Never seen before. It's not part of the MCU anymore. Apparently they're trying to bring it back. This was when Marvel movies had balls. This is an R-rated superhero film about vampires. It's super violent, very entertaining. Not a perfect movie. Some of the CGI, some of the special effects don't hold up very well. But man, is this a wild superhero movie, because technically it's a comic book film. It's a comic book Marvel movie. Wesley Snipes is great, very entertaining, very bloody, very violent. I enjoyed this first time watch, and Blade was great. Really liked it. Next one up is the another, I guess, vampire film, Let the Right One In, the original Swedish film, right? I think it's Swedish. I thought it was Swedish. I'd only ever seen the remake, the American remake, and I watched the original for the first time. Definitely a very different kind of horror film. Not your traditional Hollywood horror film. Far more contemplative and focused on character building and mood setting than it is the horror. It's really a coming of age drama film that's dressed up as a horror film, I guess is the best way to describe it, about two kids. Well, I won't spoil anything, but technically when you start watching it, two kids. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's set in 1982, even though it came out in 2008. So it has a 80s aesthetic, Swedish 80. It takes place in Stockholm. So Swedish aesthetic, but in the 80s. But yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot. Let the Right One In. I bought it, so I have it on Blu-ray. Next film here, next old film, is a French horror film that is often on lists of the most disturbing movies ever made, that I had never seen before. Decided to break down and watch it. I watched this on Tubi. Highly recommend Tubi if you've never used that streaming service. It's free. It's a streaming service that just puts ads in its movies and TV shows, so you can watch movies and TV shows for free. You might have to sit through some ads periodically. But I watched Martyrs. It's a 2008 French horror film. I don't have a lot to say about this movie other than it's like the single most disturbing movie I've ever seen. One of easily top 5 most disturbing movie I've ever seen. The final act of this movie is fascinating, yet one of the most depraved and disgusting things I've ever seen in my life. This movie has some very crazy ideas on its mind, but it is an excruciating watch. I don't know if I will ever watch this again. I did not give it a review in terms of a star rating on Letterboxd. Excuse me, because I don't know how to review this. Like, it's not a bad movie. It's just a super fucked up movie. So I don't know. If you have a stomach for really disturbing things, and you want to check out something, it's a very thoughtful movie in terms of the themes on its mind, but it is just hard to watch. It is very hard to stomach. Not sure I will ever watch it again. I will definitely never forget my watch. So yeah, Martyrs, not the American remake, the French original film. Moving on here, one of the last movies I watched for the first time before I get in my 1001 movies list here. Again, maybe some of these are in that book. I'm gonna have to go double check after this. But the last old movie I want to mention here is The Wedding Singer, 1998 Adam Sandler comedy film. I'd never seen this movie before. and I liked it a lot. The Wedding Singer was pretty great. I thought it was a fun movie. I think it's one of Sandler's better comedy films that he's been in. It's not a great movie. It's a very simple premise, but it's not. I think the biggest thing that stood out for me from The Wedding Singer is it avoids being mean-spirited and juvenile. I do enjoy a lot of Sandler's comedy films. I'm a fan of, I don't think any of them are like masterpieces necessarily, but I love The Waterboy. Huge guilty pleasure film for me. Mr. Deeds is fun. The Longest Yard remake is fun. Big Daddy's fun. Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison. A lot of stupid comedy films, but they're fun. They're entertaining. But some of his worst movies, some of the really bad ones, like 8 Crazy Nights and That's My Boy, end up being mean-spirited and juvenile to a fault. Like so disgusting and juvenile. And this film doesn't do that. It avoids that. It's just kind of a fun, silly movie. There's some really great sequences of Adam Sandler singing. There's a hilarious 1-minute song he sings when he's depressed that made me laugh out loud pretty hard. Yeah, I give this one a 3.5 stars. I think it's fun. I'd rewatch it. It's entertaining. All right, so now I want to break into my 1001 movies you must see before you die reviews. So this is an ongoing challenge. It's a book that you can buy. I have the 2015 edition. There's a new edition printed every year where they add films. You can go online. You can check out the list. There's an ongoing list that has more than 1001 movies because every edition they have to take away movies and add more movies. So if you go to, there's a website, I can't remember which website, but if you just search it, there's an ongoing list of it's 1,500 or 1,600 total movies that this book has put out as movies you should see. So I'm trying to go through that list and my book and just checking off movies as I go. So the first movie I watched since August, I've added, I think 6 or 7 movies. I think some of the movies I just talked about maybe were a part of this list. Officially added 6 more movies checked off from my list. The first one's the 1921, Norwegian. I was going to say Swedish. I think this is a Norwegian film. I believe it's Norway. 1921 Norwegian film, The Phantom Carriage, which is considered one of the earliest horror films ever made. Kind of up there with Nosferatu as very early horror films, international horror films. Takes place on New Year's Eve. 3 drunkards talk about a legend where the last person to die in a year, if he is a great sinner, has to drive the entire year the Phantom Chariot that is this apparatus that picks up souls of the dead. So fascinating premise. I believe it's based on a book, on a novel, if I remember correctly. It's a story within a story within a story. I think there's 2 frame narratives in this movie, and it is a silent film. Great music. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars in Letterboxd. I have the Criterion Collection Blu-ray of this film. It's one that I believe is in the public domain because it's so old, so you could probably go watch it for free on YouTube. But yeah, it's a really good early horror film. I wasn't completely enamored with it. Silent films, again, can be very hit or miss for me, but I really enjoyed it. Phantom Carriage. The next one that I already mentioned in my last episode that I watched, I watched for the first time ever the 1950 Japanese film from Akira Kurosawa, Rashomon. I'd never seen this before. It's on HBO Max. Ironically, I watched it 2 or 3 days before I watched The Last Duel, which Ridley Scott's new film employs the exact same storytelling technique as this film. Essentially, Rashomon is a film that is about a rape and a murder that is told from 3 different perspectives. 3 different people provide 3 or 4. I think it's 3. 4. Excuse me. 4 people. 4 people recount the rape and the murder. 4 different versions. What's crazy is this movie, when it came out in 1950, ended up becoming a psychological term that's accepted in the psychology community. So there's now something called the Rashomon effect, where people who different people who recount the same event happening in different ways, it's now referred to as the Rashomon effect, because it's an actual thing, an actual studied thing, where people all can differently report the same thing that happened. It's a very good film. Did not connect with me as much as I was hoping. I love Seven Samurai. Seven Samurai is one of my favorite films from Akira Kurosawa. This is a movie, Rashomon, that I will have to watch again. It's very short. It's less than 90 minutes. So I love the way this film unfolds. The narrative and storytelling techniques here, I think, are incredible. Great camera work and direction. A lot of thought-provoking themes. It's a period piece. Came out in 1950, but the time period is during. I don't remember. It's very old. Some really old time period in Japanese history. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it's worth checking out. Got to check this one off my list of classic cinema that I need to see. The next film that I watched was a Russian film, Soviet Union film from Andrei Tarkovsky, who is a famous Russian filmmaker who only made Soviet filmmaker, only made 7 films. He died pretty abruptly, I think in his like late 40s from cancer. Crazy enough, he died from cancer supposedly from making this film. So the film that I watched was Stalker, 1979, and where they filmed this apparently was very polluted and had a lot of like toxic chemicals and things in the air. It was like downriver from like some like plant, some like industrial plant, and so there was all this toxic stuff. A bunch of people who made this film ended up dying from cancer all around the same time, and it kind of makes this film very creepy. This is a over 2.5 hour film that is very challenging. It's a science fiction film, but not in the traditional sense. It's not like overly entertaining. The science fiction and futuristic element is more of an apparatus for more theme heavy storytelling and ideas and character building. It's very slow. The movie notoriously only had like 140 something shots, which is insane. If you don't know, the average film has like thousands of shots now. Like a modern film has like thousands of shots. This movie is almost 3 hours and only has like not even 150 shots. So what I mean by that is they're long takes without cuts, scenes that last for minutes, sometimes 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes, very long sequences that never cut. Lots of talking, very heavy ideas. I did not give this a review on Letterboxd because I want to watch it again. It's often regarded as one of the greatest films ever made, and it's one that I need to see again. I need to collect my thoughts on and watch it again. The only other film of his I've seen was Solaris, and I was very split on that one as well, where I didn't want to give it a review because it's this very famous film that's highly regarded, but it's one that it's just like I got to watch it again before I can really form my thoughts on it. The next film I watched, I finally watched another Orson Welles movie. The only film from Orson Welles I'd ever seen was Citizen Kane. I've watched it like 3 times now. I watched F for Fake. Super weird movie. So F for Fake is a film that came out in 1973 from Orson Welles at a time where apparently he was hurting for money. And he was trying to come up with something new, and apparently he was making this documentary. The film starts off as a documentary of an art forger named Elmir. Real life, this is real life art forger who was living in Ibiza, the island off of Spain. And then it also documents the guy who wrote a biography about him, Clifford Irving, who is famous for forging a biography about Howard Hughes, famous filmmaker. So it's about 2 forgers. And the thing that's noteworthy about this film is its style and presentation. It's like a documentary, but it's not. Some people describe this as like the first film essay. Other people describe this as like a shit post before the internet existed. I don't even know how to describe this movie. It's on HBO Max. It's less than 90 minutes. It's really short. If you like Orson Welles or want to see like an experimental documentary film, check it out. It's another movie. I don't know how I feel about it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Or no, I did not give it a review. I just said I liked it, and I gave it a short. Like, I basically said a far more elaborate, insanely edited, cinematic 1970s version of internet shitpost or film essay. It wasn't really my thing. I'll be honest. I love Orson Welles. I guess I agree with people who say this is groundbreaking stuff, because I feel like you're not going to find anything else like this that exists in the early 1970s or anything before it. Just didn't really connect with me. It's one that maybe I got to watch again now that I know what it's going for and what's on its mind. I'll probably check out again, but super weird experimental documentary film, way ahead of its time. F for fake. The next film I watched was a rewatch. Good Morning Vietnam. I had not watched in a while, and it is in the 1,001 Movies You Must See Before You Die book. I decided to rewatch it and officially add it to my list. I have an ongoing ranking of all these films I'm watching for this challenge on Letterboxd, so I thought I would rewatch it so I could add it to my ranking officially. Good Morning Vietnam, very famous. Late 1980s comedy war film where Robin Williams gives basically a Robin Williams performance as a DJ in Vietnam, soldier DJ, army DJ. And I love this movie. It's not a perfect film, but Robin Williams makes me smile, man. Love that man, miss him dearly, and I adore his performance in this film. There's some B plots and some narrative stuff that doesn't always work, isn't great, but just his performance makes this movie. It really does. His performance and some of the themes that are presented here are just what make this movie. Last movie I want to talk about here is one I watched last night. Another film on HBO Max, another 1970s film. It is a French animated film, French adult animated film from 1973, Fantastic Planet. Fantastic Planet is a movie I've been meaning to watch for a long time. Kind of an experimental art house animated film. It's very short, 72 minutes, less than 70 minutes before the credits roll, and it is weird, and I love it. The animation and the music is insane. The world building, the ideas and themes here also so thought-provoking. Lot on its mind, especially with slavery, and kind of, animal cruelty as well. Some very cool ideas going on here. I can't believe this came out in 1973, I guess is the best way to describe it. When you watch this movie, you're like, man, it's another movie that just seems way ahead of its time. Kind of crazy. It came out the same year as F for Fake. Two movies that came out in 1973, very different films. F for Fake, ironically, was also a French production. So man, those French people, man, they know how to create some great movies. Fantastic Planet, this animated film, I gave a 4 out of 5 star review. It's like somewhere around an 8 for me. I wasn't huge with the narrative there's not really any there's characters, but the movie isn't really about the characters or the character building. It's more about the world building and the themes and the animation and kind of the experimental aspect, the ideas here. I'm always kind of looking for characters to latch onto, so didn't really connect with this one, unfortunately, but I still love it. I think it's still great. All right, so that's going to wrap things up here. Those are some old movies that I've watched, my thoughts on some first-time watches for films I had never seen before, and my adding and updating my 1,001 Movies You Must See Before You Die challenge, that list. After you've watched this episode, please head over to Twitter. Give me a follow, would appreciate it, at NerdVince, NerdVince. Head over to Instagram, Vincent R. Cook. I post my reviews there as well. Letterboxd, Vince the Film Nerd on Letterboxd as well. All these links are in the description. Podcast stores, you can find me on Apple, Spotify, any podcast store. The Film Nerd Podcast there. And then on YouTube, if you're not already watching on YouTube, I do post these videos to YouTube. Vince the Film Nerd. Subscribe there, would appreciate it. Share my videos, like, comment, do all that great stuff. Appreciate any support. I'll continue to try and find time to put stuff out, talking about movies, and I'll be back very soon, hopefully. Looking to try and get some discussions together with some people about new movies. 2021 list hopefully will be out in the next couple months. Until next time, I'm Vince, Film Nerd Podcast. Go watch some movies.
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Roger.